And so, when I thought about it, considering the date, I realized I wouldn't have had any of the girls' phone numbers yet. So I had Michiru call the dynamic duo of first years, and within that same moment, Makoto showed up at our house as well. With all that in mind, we decided to congregate at Central Park. For some reason I couldn't quite discern. I found the phrase first assembly of the It's All Ray's Fault Club floating in my mind. I had to pray that there wouldn't be a second one. Oh, though I guess DD wouldn't have left the UK yet by now. Her timing was as horrendous as always. What a cutie. Anyway, returning to the issue at hand. I had already explained the gist of the situation to everyone, but Misaki spoke up loudly in protest, evidently still confused about everything. Crow, who had become the center of attention, could only shrug her shoulders.
分かっていることを改めて説明するまでもないと思うが、お主ら全員がそれぞれご主人と結ばれた記憶を保持しておるのだろう？何か困ることでもあるのか？
困ってるし、どうしてこうなったのかよ。
我が輩に聞くな。
他に誰に聞けって言うのよ。というか、なんであなたに聞かないといけないの？
Oh, now that you mention it, Misaki, I guess you never knew about Crow before. Michiru can fill you in on that later.
私もクロさんとは初対面ですが、いいでしょうか。
Miu raised her tiny hand, evidently having something to contribute.
お話にあった彼女をレイ先輩が認識できないということは、今は量子力学の重なり合った状態のような感じなんだと思うんです。
What?
みーちゃん、何それ？重なり合った状態？
レイ先輩が誰とお付き合いするのかが確定せずに揺らいでいるってことかな。今はまだその可能性がみんなにある。これでどう？難しいお話はよくわかりませんね。
まとめ！
みんながレイ君のこと好き好き大好きハーレム状態でもう一回用意ドンってことだね。
わかりやす
い。Looks like Misaki doesn't have anything constructive to add to this conversation. That suited her though. Besides, Makoto, why are you so elated about all this anyway?
だってこの感じだと普通の女の子に私も混ぜてもらってるっぽいじゃん。
I know you have a weird idea of excitement, but yeesh, now my stomach hurts. Harem root? Fuck yeah! I wished I could shout that to the heavens, but since they all still had sincere feelings for me, I wasn't just caught between a rock and a hard place. I was surrounded by enough rocks and hard places to qualify as a human demolition site. Then Michiru loudly clapped her hands together.
でしたら、私以外の方は潔く身を引いてください。
うわ、みちるちゃん、対応早っ。そうよ。別に私は先輩のことなんて気にならないけど、どうして彼女がみちるじゃなきゃいけないのよ。
皆さん、よく考えてください。私と兄様が結ばれなければ、みちるはこの世に誕生することができないんですよ。あの可愛い子をこの世界に祝福してあげずにどうするのですか？
人質？ちょっとみちる、子供を盾にするのは卑怯よ。
ああ、一応だが、それぞれの時空のご主人とお主らは何も問題なくむつまじく過ごしているはずだぞ。そうなんですか？そうではないという感覚が我が輩にはないのだが。過去に戻って未来を変えられるということは、時空が無限の枝になってるんですね。やっぱり私たち自身が確定されていない揺らぎそのものなんだ。みゆさん、せっかくまとめた話をまた小難しくするのはやめましょう。そうだね。ごめんね、みちるちゃん。ちょっと面白い話だったから。
The conversation went on without giving me room for input, though that probably made it easy on me. It felt a bit weird, since I had memories of falling in love with all these girls, but no memories of what happened afterwards with any of them. Even if those memories had all been just too good to last, like Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, it would have been nice if I still remembered them. This is probably a bad time to ask, but can I go home now?
目立たないようにしてても逃がさないわよ。責任を取りなさい。
Responsibility? Well, I love to do that, but do I just have to choose someone right now?
これまで通り末永くよろしくお願いいたします。
ちょっと待ちなさい。
待ちません。
みちると私に限って言えば勝負ついてるでしょ。
あんな兄様のお情けで判定勝ちしたようなコンクールでですか？
What kinda heartwarming scene is this? It's like they're having a mock fight with stuffed animals or something. In the midst of that chaos, Makoto was having quite a laugh.
もういっそ全員の頭を叩いて記憶喪失にでもなってもらった方がいいんじゃない？
Now look, we can't even solve this mess with words. What makes you think resorting to violence would solve it?
え？手っ取り早いよ。
Makoto, you're a goddamned brute, though I like that about you. Perhaps it was actually because of me that she was able to be her true self around other people.
まあレイ君が不真面目にみんなと付き合ったわけじゃないしね。もしそうだったらとっくに刺されてるだろうけど。
I'll just have to make sure I don't cheat on anyone then. She was seriously freaking me out. I had to turn away.
ということはやっぱり。
ああ、おそらくそうなるだろうな。
Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed that Mew and Crow were ignoring us and talking about something else. Then Mew came over to me.
レイ先輩。
That face of yours is kind of scaring me. What's up?
ダメです。
I mustn't... What?
誰かを。いえ、誰を選んでもダメなんです。
Is this about that whole girlfriend thing?
そうです。皆さんも聞いてください。
Miyu's serious demeanor caused Makoto, as well as the bickering Michiru and Misaki, to stop talking and turn their attention to her.
なんか注目されると照れますね。
There's no need to be worrying about that now, though.
そうですね。結論から言うと、レイ先輩が誰かとお付き合いすることになったら、先輩が死にます。
Huh?
つまりこの夏の間にレイ先輩が誰かと恋仲になり、デートの帰り道にモノレールに乗っている、その状況を再現というより確定させてしまうと、また神様に会うということです。わかりますよね。
Yeah, well, it's not too complicated, at least. In other words, if we ended up creating the same situation again, my future wouldn't change. I had escaped the goddess once by traveling back in time to a point where I wasn't dating anyone yet. Hence, if I found myself in the same situation again, Crow wouldn't be able to help me and I would die for sure. Well, if you put it that way, should I still go out with someone but stop using the monorail? Would that be safe?
安全を考えれば可能な限り違う状況にしておく方がいいと思いますけど。
Ah, Christ.
つまり私と付き合うと兄様が死んでしまうということですか？
どうしてもみちるは自分が先輩の相手だって決めつけたいのね。
もちろんです。運命ですから。二人とも冗談じゃないんだよ。分かっていますよ。さすがに兄様が死ぬと分かっていて迫るほど愚かではありません。
そうよね。いや、私は迫って っていないわよ。
Michiru and Misaki were clearly quite dismayed at this troubling news. With the mood from earlier having changed dramatically, everyone else put their heads together and started debating what to do next. Good grief.
あれ、レイ君、なんか余裕だね。
I didn't even notice Makoto standing next to me until she said something. Well, it's all my problem, so there's no point in panicking about it. Plus, I don't have a specific solution in mind, and worrying about it isn't going to help me find one.
私の時もそんな感じだったね。
More importantly, don't you want to join the others?
ま、いいんじゃないかな。
Why not? Makoto's indifferent attitude was even more mysterious than the situation I had found myself in. In response to my question, Makoto showed me a smile brimming with confidence.
まあまあ、レイ君ならなんとかなるって。
Guess she didn't have any particular reason. A few hours later. Having failed to come up with any bombshell solutions or insights for my newfound problem, we all went our separate ways. All the same, Crow, Makoto and I ended up leaving earlier than the others. We wanted to continue this discussion in a follow-up meeting of sorts. I tried to play it cool earlier, but riding the monorail this evening, I couldn't calm myself down. I found myself being vigilant for any sort of omen. If Mio was right in declaring that I would be safe as long as I didn't get a girlfriend, I'd probably be fine, but the safest option would be to not ride the monorail at all. But in this city, not riding the monorail would be extraordinarily inconvenient. I held onto the strap hanging from the ceiling for dear life, having no idea if the train would screech to a sudden stop. I feel like I'm worrying too much, but I can't shake the memory of all that either. I gnashed my teeth while muttering anxiously to myself. Meanwhile, as for the person beside me, the monorail shook back and forth as it traced the gentle line of the tracks, and Crow matched the shaking by waving her whole body back and forth like a balancing toy. You really should hold onto one of the straps or the railing.
楽しんでるように見えるけど。
人並みだと揺れとはこのような感触だったのだな。
Crow muttered with intense fascination. Evidently, discovering human sensations was a lot of fun to her.
ちょっと車両の先頭に行ってみてもよいか?
Just stay still. Is she a child? Though, even with all of the accumulated knowledge she had, one could say Crow was literally akin to a child born a few hours ago. The awkwardness she displayed reminded me of when I had to watch over Michiru all the time, back when she lost her sight.
ところで、ご主人。
What?
お主、あの場では意図的に口にしていないことがあるだろう。
Hmm? I thought about it for a moment. Well, I have been pretty curious about why you were in a school uniform when you became a human.
これは人間の女子が着ている服として最も統一されている姿を我輩が模しただけであろう。
I'd say school uniforms are a perfect representation of that image.
分かっていてはぐらかしておらぬか?
What do you mean?
レイ君が神様に殺されちゃうっていうのがクロちゃんの時計の副作用なのかどうかってことでしょ?
Hey, I was trying to steer clear of that minefield. Don't go diving into it on my behalf.
女は度胸。
I decided to ignore Makoto's oversimplified aphorism. Crow was glaring at me.
気づいていなかったわけではあるまい。
I guess you're right. The handrail gave a creak as I shifted more of my weight into it. I'm surprised Makoto figured that out though.
そりゃ、私はクロちゃんの時計のことについてレイ君と同じくらい詳しいし。
しかもそこの女子は時計のせいで面倒ごとに巻き込まれていたからな。
Yeah, I think I remember that. Out of all the girls I knew, Makoto was the lone individual among them who had a sort of VIP status. Misaki and Miyu hadn't even known about Crow or the watch before today. As for Michiru and GD, well, they were already in the know about those topics. My time travel ability hadn't been a part of their knowledge. The only one who knew everything was Makoto. There was also the fact that everyone else was completely unaware of Makoto's incident, except for the time she'd smashed that window, but to them that had been carried out by a doppelganger posing as Misaki. Well, I do understand how all this probably happened because I got involved with Crow and her watch. I paused for a moment, thinking about how to phrase this. But that said, I also know that it's all thanks to her watch that I'm even alive right now.
あの事故のことか。
事故？
Yeah, that was supposed to have happened today. I first realized the power within Crow's watch when I was almost run down by a truck.
そんなことがあったんだ。
So, I can understand why my involvement with the watch is why I'm at risk of dying, but I wouldn't be alive right now if I didn't have it with me. And besides, this is going to be embarrassing to say, but I wondered if it was better not to say this, but Crow and Makoto were staring at me expectantly, so I let out a sigh and continued. I feel like I'm doing a lot more with my life than I was before I met Crow, probably because I very nearly got killed. So, instead of blaming Crow for everything that's happened, I guess I should be grateful to her for it instead. That was enough. It really was embarrassing to say.
なるほどね。
人間としては納得するべき意見なのか？頭に中身の詰まっていない意見にも聞こえるのだが。
Makoto agreed with me right away, but Crow was not so easily convinced.
どうだろうね。まあ、レイ君はどこか変だし、そういう考えもありなんじゃない？
ご主人がおかしいのは今に始まったことではないか。
For the record, I don't have any sort of death wish, okay? I felt the need to make that announcement, since Makoto seemed about ready to order me to commit harakiri, and I had no interest in wanting to cut my own stomach open. Though, speaking of stomachs, I suddenly heard a low growling sound. Crow glanced down at her abdomen with a look of confusion.
なんだ今のは。
Oh, I guess your stomach's empty.
いっぱい食べさせてあげなきゃね。
そうか。これが空腹で食事によるエネルギー補給が必要な合図か。人の身は不便なものだ。
Crow muttered pathetically to herself. For the rest of the day, at least, it was probably more important to take care of Crow's needs as a human being than to worry about my own problems. Our house had no shortage of extra rooms and was more than able to accommodate an unexpected guest. While I'd always taken that for granted, I found myself feeling oddly thankful for that now. Once the monorail pulled into the closest station, I called Makoto over for a word in private. Hey Makoto, I have a favor to ask.
なんじゃらほい。
Could you look after Crow?
うちで預かってくれってこと？
No, that's not it.
あ、そっか。無知なクロちゃんにいろいろなことしちゃうチャンスだもんね。レイ君はエロいな。
Honestly, Makoto, sometimes I wonder why the hell I'm still friends with you. After we threw the other pocket watch into the sea, we really did live happily ever after, right? Well, Makoto and I had no memories of what happened after that, so I could never know for sure. There are a lot of things that Crow doesn't understand about being human yet, so I want you to help her out if she's having trouble.
別に構わないけど、それってみちるちゃんか DD さんに頼む方がよくない？
Of course, I'll let them handle it when she's at home, but as for when she isn't, you're the one who understands Crow and what she needs more than anyone else. And most importantly, you understand how terrifying her powers can be.
そういうことか。よく気が回るね。
Makoto seemed surprised and impressed to hear me say that. Well, I do like to plan things out after all. but I like flying by the seat of my pants even more.
すごく納得。
As we both continued to converse, Crow, who had gone on ahead of us, came running back to where we were.
はーい、ご主人、ご主人。
預けてた切符をくれ。機械に切符を入れるのは楽しいのだ。というか、触れるだけであの機械を通れる魔法のカードを我が輩にも買ってくれ。
Crow waved her arms in the air like an excited child.
まあ、クロちゃんは人間になったことを満喫してるような気がするけどね。
Good grief. And so on and so forth. Night fell in a rather uneventful fashion. We entrusted Crow to our maids, a bunch of middle-aged women who love to have guests. As a result, I didn't see her after returning to my room, since she would have been in the main wing of the house. To ensure my family didn't find out about her, she ate dinner separately from Michiru and me as well. It made sense to give her the same kind of treatment we gave little Michiru before. Crow undoubtedly received a warm welcome from the maids as well. I'd bet anything they were patting her head and pinching her cheeks for hours. So ultimately, there's pretty much no way in hell she'll be staying in my room, I guess. I had dreamed of living together with a beautiful girl, but reality is too cruel to allow such a dream to come true. Even if I tried to make it come true, Michiru would meddle around behind my back to foil that plan, just like she did with DD. It's times like this I expect Crow to float down from the ceiling and chat with me for a little while. I was bored. What was I supposed to do from here on out? Makoto wouldn't drop her lunchbox this time around, and Miu wouldn't try to confess to Shuji again either, unless something dramatically changed. All the other girls had already dealt with their own problems as well. In other words, beginning tomorrow, no particularly troublesome problems or accidents would spring up. Had I returned to the peaceful days from before I ever found Crow's pocket watch? After all, I couldn't find a girlfriend this time around. Well, I should get some sleep before I worry about any of that. Everything that had happened today had my head feeling weighed down with exhaustion. It wouldn't do any good to stay up late thinking about things. I'd always been told back when I was a boy to always get a reasonable amount of sleep. Setting my wake-up alarm on my phone along with the automatic shutdown timer on my fan, I then turned out the lights. Good night.